all your Diablo 4 item and gold needs, go to aoe.com and use code Ineffable for 3% off. Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to be jumping into a patch note review video for the Season 5 PTR, specifically looking at what we're going to be getting in Season 5, as well as reviewing the patch note changes for my favorite class, Druid. If you want to read the full patch notes for yourself, I will leave the link in the description so you can check it out, but let's get straight into it. Starting off, the PTR will run from June 25th to July 2nd. All you need to do is own the game on Battle.net, then you can just sign up and participate from there. So we can confirm from Blizzard that Season 5 will be a short season, but despite that we still have some really impressive changes. Starting off, we have a new storyline which is taking place in Hawazar, which is my favorite zone. I love the aesthetic of it, the whole swampy place, and we're going to be getting a new game mode. They're calling it Slay the Infernal Hordes. Now, Hell Tides were just the beginning in the horrors that are lying in wait, and we need to confront endless waves of legions and get some sweet gear from it. Now, of course, you guys can read all of this in the link in the description, but as an overview, we're going to be fighting this Fell Council, which is the same Fell Council from Diablo 2, by the way, which is quite a nostalgic throwback. This will be kind of like a roguelike mode where we battle these hordes. Each wave lasts 90 seconds, and we progress through them as we successfully beat or reach certain thresholds. And you can see here, the map is like a closed off area, quite small, but it seems like it's going to be lots of fun just battling endless hordes and just getting to slay them over and over again. This is the type of stuff that we have been wanting, something to really put our build to the test, especially because they say that there are going to be quite difficult levels later on in this game mode. Now, what they're talking about here are the infernal offers. Now, these are kind of like a boon that you're going to pick. You're going to get 3 options, and it's going to have 1 positive and 1 negative affix to it. Now, the one that you can see in the image says that hellfire will rain down upon us, but as a positive, we're going to get between 1 and 3 extra resources at the end of every wave. So this is going to be able to give you the choice of how difficult you want things to be compared to how many resources you're going to be getting from each wave. Now, the resources in question are the Burning Ether. Maybe you are familiar with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and the way they did like their whole vault system is you do these runs and you get a whole bunch of this resource while you're doing the run, and at the end you get to open chests which are going to give you targeted farm loot. So you can see here they have all the chests there surrounding them in the thing. There's going to be chests of equipment, materials, gold, and greater equipment, which they say is going to guarantee the greater affix every single time. Now, I don't know how often these ethers are going to be dropping, but it seems plentiful. Moving on, we have the infernal compasses, which are basically the keys to get into these areas. Now, you're going to be getting these infernal compasses, or what it seems like, with preset rolls on them or randomized rolls, and basically you'll keep these and you can use them infinitely. And basically you're going to be using these scrolls to upgrade the infernal compass. So say, for example, you get a tier 3 compass, and now you really like the affixes that roll on it. You got more equipment, more gold, and more greater equipment. You can upgrade it and keep increasing the level of the monsters. Therefore, you're obviously going to be getting more ethers and more gear from it in general. Now, moving down, we can see that the tiers of these compasses only become available at certain thresholds. For example, you can only get a tier 1 compass when you're at world tier 3, tier 2 at world tier 4, and tier 3 at level 100. Meaning there's going to be a nice progression to this. And then lastly, we have the Battle the Fell Priests, which are the new endgame bosses for this activity. There are multiple of them, and each time you get to fight the boss, you're going to get a randomized 3, so you need to learn all of their attacks and their nuances in order to take them down at the highest difficulties. This seems like it can be really interesting, and I already know the Frozen FX one is going to absolutely piss me off. 4 new weapons and items. They say that Season 5 is going to bring a ton of new uniques, legendary aspects. They're saying about 10 for each class, which is quite a plentiful amount considering this is supposed to be a small bridge filling season. Quality of life updates to endgame bosses and more. Now, the big takeaways here is when you're fighting these endgame bosses, you no longer have to leave and reset the dungeon in order to fight them again. The altar will just reappear once they have died, and you'll be able to just summon them straight after. Another good takeaway is that Vashan will no longer require 4 materials. The only material required will just be Malignant Hearts, as well as the Beast and Ice. You no longer have to do a dungeon in order to fight them. There will just be a normal boss just like the rest of them. In terms of Hull Tide and Whispers, they want to streamline everything. They want you to be able to do more Whispers while in Hull Tide, so they've kind of consolidated the bounties into one area, as well as made it easier to complete these bounties, so they got rid of some of them that were a bit more difficult. There has also been some changes to material drop rates within Hull Tide, but honestly these won't be too bad. You'll see that they're basically making the tortured gifts have a lower chance to drop Baneful Hearts, which is fair because right now we are absolutely stacked on Baneful Hearts. Loot rewards are up next, and there are a few takeaways here. Resplendent Sparks can now be earned on both normal and hardcore, so softcore and hardcore, so you'll get one each there. Resplendent Sparks and Scattered Prisms will no longer be automatically picked up. You actually have to click on them, but now these do go to your stash if you do leave them behind, which is quite a nice change. A big one that I quite like is now uniques and mythic uniques can now be gambled and found in Whisper caches, as well as tortured gifts in the Hull Tides. Now we don't know the exact drop rates of this, but it would be really awesome to say you open a random Whisper cache one time and a Shaco drops out. Treasure Goblins are getting some much needed changes right now. Despite we had that little event, Treasure Goblins are really trash at what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be this awesome loot pinata, but they're really disappointing when you do end up fighting and killing them. They're going to be increasing the amount of items they drop. They're also going to be increasing the amount of elixirs, as well as materials that they drop, such as common ore and bundled herbs. And then on top of that, they're going to be almost tripling the amount of gold we're currently getting from them, which is awesome. In terms of weapons, they're kind of universalizing everything, so they don't want weapons to have extremely niche stats on them, so instead they're getting rid of things such as damage to crowd controlled, and now you'll see those have been removed and replaced with something that's more applicable to a wider variety of things. And they have also stated that classes will now be able to use weapons that they could not before, so we'll finally be able to use a polearm on the Druid. Now, they also bring a whole bunch of awesome accessibility changes such as autopin, audio navigation, and compass. Autopin will basically, when you select a quest, it's going to put a pin right on the marker so you don't have to select it yourself. Audio navigation will have enhanced prompts, and compass will have a small compass circle around your character at the bottom to show you in which direction you need to go. So that's the end of the general things that will be coming in Season 5, so let's jump into some of the game updates. Firstly, we're going to get a new tempering recipe for all classes. Now, we do know there was an issue that crit strike damage could not be rolled on any class except the rogue. This has been changed. Now we're going to get this awesome tempering recipe. Now, let's get to what's new for the Druid. Bjornfang Tusks is a unique pair of gloves. Reads Cataclysm is now guaranteed to strike anything in range, and you deal up to 80% multiplicative increased damage for the duration of the effects. While Cataclysm is active, you gain unlimited spirits. Now you can just tell this is going to be absolutely busted. This is going to be included in every single Druid build where there is space for it, and it's going to make a huge world of difference to our power in Season 5. Next up, we have a new mobility aspect of the Rushing Wilds. When casting a companion skill, grants up to 15% move speed for 5 seconds, up to a maximum of 45. I would have loved this to be a bit more seconds, maybe 7 or 8, but we'll take what we can get. Of course, we have a new ultimate efficiency, so we can get that Cataclysm cooldown reduction, which is going to be quite big. Now, that's all the new things coming for the Druid, so let's just scroll down to the balance changes, and then we can jump into the Druid changes. First off, Passive Ranks of Clarity has been added to Amulets. This is an awesome skill for the Hurricane Druid, so it's getting even better now. Next up, we have what I think is the big winner of the patch, and that is going to be Landslide. The damage per hit of Landslide increased from 37.5 to 70. They've increased the size from 1.5 to 2. They've doubled the amount of pillars, and they've increased the total damage from 70 to 280%. This is a 4 times increase. With these changes, I'm confident that Landslide will be a good build next season, so be sure to subscribe because I'm going to be releasing a Trample Slide guide video, which is the gameplay you're seeing on screen, next week. Moving on, Shred is also getting a much needed damage buff. You can see across all the attack stages, almost doubling. And then you can also see that Pulverize is getting a humongous damage buff. Now, it already just did get a big damage buff, but I don't think it's where it needs to be, especially in comparison to other classes. So Pulverize, Tornado, Lightning Storm, and of course Hurricane. Now I'm very excited for this. I love the Hurricane Druid, and it's getting doubled in damage. Now obviously this is to compensate for the loss of the aspect that no longer affects our core and rat skills, but this amount of increase is sure to be something tasty. Next up, we have some changes to Raven and Poison Creeper can now be cast while moving, and then Lacerate, they're increasing the damage area from 1 to 2, and Lacerate will teleport you to the target instead of casting at your position. The lightning strike rate of Cataclysm has been doubled. Cataclysm will definitely be the go-to ultimate next season, and Grizzly Rage is also getting quite a big buff. Overall, they are increasing the base damage, they are increasing the max damage that you can cap up to, and they are increasing the max duration that you can remain in Grizzly Rage form. Unfortunately, Debilitating Roar is taking quite a hefty nerf to the damage reduction, but I think this is done in conjunction with the changes coming up later to kind of level things out and not fully rely on Debilitating Roar. Earthen Bulwark used to provide us barrier based on base life, now it's going to be providing us a barrier on maximum life, which is going to be a fantastic increase to survivability. It's going to be much higher than it was before. Cyclone Armor is going from 10% to 15% non-physical damage reduction. Now I wonder if this will be making that aspect that makes Cyclone Armor provide physical damage reduction as well more useful. Next up, a big change. The Shepherd's aspect used to provide bonus damage to core and rat skills. Now it's only going to provide damage to your companion skills, so we're taking a bit of a nerf in that regard. The Skinwalker aspect, which is never really used, is getting a humongous increase. This used to give a flat amount of health, but now it's giving up to 20% of your life when you are shapeshifting, so this might be a good defensive option to look at in the future. The Aftershock aspect for our landslide is now getting the rates at which the second pillars come out slightly decreased, just so we can get some more damage out quicker. Lupine Ferocity is decreasing the amount of hits needed from 6 to 3, so this might be seen a bit more in some builds. Vigilance, we're getting increased damage reduction. Iron Fur, we're getting increased damage reduction, and Hides and Senses, we are getting increased damage reduction. The Metamorphic Stone aspect will no longer remove the rat skill tag from Boulder. And then moving down to Paragon, the Thunderstruck legendary node is now capped at 40%, so this is a bit of a nerf. We have the Human Glyph getting increased damage and increased damage reduction. We have the Protector Glyph getting increased damage reduction, the Werebear Glyph getting increased damage and damage reduction, and the Werewolf Glyph is getting increased damage reduction too. That's going to be all the changes that we're getting for the Druid class in Season 5. Overall, I think it's extremely positive. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you need to read anything else for yourself, the link is in the description. Please do check it out. Please do consider liking and subscribing because I'm going to be making more Druid content in Season 5. So if you want to see that, you want to see some awesome builds, please do subscribe. As always, I appreciate every single one of you watching these videos. If you did enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing. And until next time, farewell.